Hello and welcome to those of you who've just joined us on YouTube and Facebook. We are we are just getting the live stream started on Instagram, so we'll be just a moment before we move forward with the live chat. But please take advantage of this opportunity to write into the comment section of Facebook or YouTube and let us know where you're joining from, a little bit about yourself if you care to, and any questions that you have for Beth. And we'll get started in just a moment. And if you're just joining us, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to get started in just a minute or two. We're getting the live stream started on Instagram, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions to Beth Rubenstein. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, we're good to go. Welcome to everyone. My name is Juniper. I'm the managing producer for Feldenkrais Access, and this is a live chat introducing Beth Rubenstein and her upcoming series, Life in Progress, which begins February 1st with a live free class. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. And I hope you'll take advantage of this opportunity to ask Beth any questions that you have about the program, about yourself, about the Feldenkrais method. And Beth, would you like to say anything before we get started?
Yes, I'd like to. Thank you, Juniper. I would like to thank everybody for being here. And I hope you are interested, and I hope that you'll ask questions. And I'm really looking forward to this series. I've taught it before in other ways, in other venues, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So please ask questions if you have them.
Thank you, Beth. And maybe you could take this opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself since you're new to Feldenkrais Access and introduce yourself a bit.
So I'm Beth Rubenstein. I live in Los Angeles, and I have a private practice here. I've been doing the Feldenkrais method for 35 years, and I was a physical therapist for 15 years before that. So I'm still a physical therapist, obviously, but I mostly practice the Feldenkrais method. And I've been interested in multiple sclerosis since I was a child when my father died of multiple sclerosis. Some of my earliest memories of him are of him being in bed, and he would go away, which I now know he was going to the hospital, and then he would come back. And it was sort of a fun time because we would all just gather in the bed with him. But like I said, I was 4, so I had little idea of what was going on. And at that time, I had a mother whose attitude was know your enemy. So she got us very involved in the MS Society very early in our lives. His brother had also passed away from it very early in the 30s. And so we got involved in the MS Society, raising money, and just overall whatever was going on, attending things that they had, events that they had. And then my sister was diagnosed with it and passed away when she was, I don't remember how old she was, but I was in PT school at the time. I was in physical therapy school at the time. So obviously my interest in MS got even more so. And when I got out of PT school, my interest was in rehab and neurological issues, and I gravitated to work with people with MS. And I started a class. I was a young physical therapist, and I started a movement class with people with MS, and it was fun. We laughed a lot. We did whole body activities, which even as a physical therapist, I knew was really helpful. And then I became a Feldenkrais practitioner, and I continued doing awareness through movement classes. And I worked for the MS Society, and I taught classes to people with MS through the MS Society. And then also I did a lot of speaking and gave a lot of talks and worked with a lot of people, attended peer groups and listened to what people were saying. And it's just grown from there. And here I am, and I still speak about MS a lot, and I give talks about MS to groups, and I do the MS walk every year. And this is our 26th year. Actually, it's probably 25 because we didn't walk during the pandemic with my children, and we're looking forward to that.
Great. Thank you so much, Beth. We do have several questions in that have come in the meantime. One is from Lynn Riggs, and they ask, would this be appropriate for someone who's not very ambulatory?
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for asking that question. Yes, the lessons there are 6 lessons, 6 classes, and 3 of them are meant to be done in chairs, and 3 they can all be done on the floor, in the bed, or in a chair. But some of them are geared for a chair, although they can be done lying down too. So yes, when I taught my classes, I always had people who were in wheelchairs or couldn't stand or walk. So yes, it is appropriate for people who aren't ambulatory. And if they can't get on the floor for the lessons that are done on the floor, they can do them in the chair. If they have help to get on the floor, all the better.
Great. And just a message to anyone who's wondering about how that might work. We will have someone in the room, in the Zoom room, when the classes are live, for you to observe how they're doing the lesson as an adaptation. So if it's a lesson that's being instructed for lying down, there'll be someone doing the lesson in a chair, so you can see how they engage with the lesson. And then if it's a lesson that's being instructed in a chair, there will be someone doing the lesson lying down so that you can see how they're engaging with the instructions. And in the recording, you'll be able to see that as well. Okay, great. Another question came in from Diana Rolls on YouTube, who asks, sorry, lost it. Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. You'll probably talk about who this course is for. In addition, I don't have multiple sclerosis, but I do have damaged nerves. No intervention to the muscles critical for walking.
I think it would be highly appropriate because using the Feldenkrais method, we can work with any part. We work with what you can do. So you say you have damage to the nerves, and the answer is yes, but how would it work with it? The same way it would with multiple sclerosis. There's something that you can do, something that you can feel, whether it's feeling your feet on the ground or moving another part that could help you feel that part. And I'm not sure exactly what can you tell me what the symptoms are? Is it weakness? If it's weakness, we can help you deal with another part that could help you use that part better. Instead of trying to strengthen something that doesn't work, that's difficult, we don't take what's difficult for you and try to make it better. We try to figure out another way to do it. You get to explore what you're doing. So you explore it, and then we give you a lot of options on how to do it differently.
That's great, Beth. And it offers a lot of optimism for everyone, not just people who are living with multiple sclerosis.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Zoe,
okay, I'm sorry. I was going to say the
No, go
Feldenkrais
ahead.
method works with the nervous system, with the brain and the nervous system. So we're working on, we know that the nervous system has the capability of changing and learning. So that's what we're working with. So when you have any kind of difficulty or injury, it doesn't just affect that one part. So we work with the whole system, and that's what makes the difference.
Thank you. I think that's really helpful. Zoe Schieber asks, hello, my name is Zoe. I am a practitioner living in Israel. Will this series be good to help understand what is useful for functional integration for people with multiple sclerosis and other neuromuscular diseases dysfunction?
So if you're talking about transferring the awareness through movement lessons, which are our group lessons, to our hands-on technique, functional integration, I think so, because it would give you ideas of how we use one part, how we can touch, even though we're using movement and we're not moving a part, it still gives you the idea of how you could move one part and it will give a connection and a relationship with another part. It's about connecting one part of ourselves to another and forming relationships. So that is what we do in awareness through movement, and that's what we do in functional integration. And in one, I'm speaking and you're moving, and the other one, I'm moving you and you're moving. It's sort of the same, however we get there.
Great, thank you. And Luca Capita writes, in your professional experience, what are the first symptoms with which you have seen multiple sclerosis manifest itself?
Well, I would say most people come to me. This has been my experience in my practice, and even when I was doing physical therapy, um, they're having difficulty walking, whether it's fatigue and they can't walk from one place to another, or whether it's stiffness, or all of a sudden they can't feel their feet, or weakness. I would say if that's the question you're asking, what I'm thinking, the first symptom is, for me, is difficulty walking. Sometimes it could be difficulty walking because of balance. But mostly in my case, the people I've seen come to me because of difficulty walking.
Beth, what about somebody who's not yet experiencing symptoms? Would this course still be helpful for them?
Yes, if they're diagnosed, if they've had a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, um, most likely something happened that gave them the diagnosis. And then what's happening now is a lot of people are taking medication, and the medications are fabulous that people are taking, and they can really decrease the symptoms. The thing is, as of yet, we don't have a cure. And so people are going to progressively decline. So it's good to know how you move now, what you do now, and then have some options on what you might have to do if all of a sudden you can't feel your feet, or you lose your balance, or you end up on the floor. What you can use to be able to function then. I mean, we always feel that the more we know our bodies and how we move, no matter what our issues are, the more we can know what we're doing before, it makes it easier if we're compromised, because most of us grow up having one way to move. We learn to move by the time we're 2 years old. That's our job when we're infants, to learn to move. And then we just learn skill. We just put skill on top of it. So something happens to us and we can't move the exact same way we always have. And we don't know what to do. We just try harder and harder. And that doesn't always work, especially when you have a disease like multiple sclerosis. So it's good to know what you feel, what you do, be aware of yourself before. And then when you start having issues, you can call, oh, yeah, I could do it like this.
Great, thank you so much. We have a question from someone who writes in, they have a family member who's living with multiple sclerosis, and they want to encourage them to take this class series, and they don't want to pressure them into it. Can you speak to someone who wants to share the Feldenkrais method, and particularly your class series, with a loved one and is maybe a little bit hesitant about coming on too strong?
Well, the thing about the Feldenkrais method, one of the reasons it works is because it feels good. It's Pleasurable. Doing the Feldenkrais method is pleasurable. You pay attention to yourself. You do what you can do. You work on your breathing. It's I would say it certainly won't hurt, and they may learn something. It's about learning. It's not about pressuring anybody to get better or to do it right. You feel how you do it, and then you figure out other ways that you can do it. It gives you it's a lot of information and a lot of opportunity to learn. It's doing the Feldenkrais method is kind of sort of like a gift to learn about your body and yourself and have pleasure and do things that you've never done before. These movements are novel. They're not things you do every day. It's not doing the same old thing that you've tried and tried and tried and not been able to do, So there's a lot of learning, and you learn about yourself. And I I would try to encourage them to and we are going to have little snippets that people don't have to do a whole 40-minute lesson to get the results. You're going to get the results very quickly. And you can take parts of it and do what works for you. There's just a lot of learning. I think that learning is just a real benefit. Doing what you can do. We're not going to ask them to do anything they can't do.
That's great. I think that's really helpful. And just to speak a little bit about the recordings, is that they will be available to you forever once you register for the program. Registration includes lifetime access to the recordings, which I think is really nice to know, because you can engage with the lessons in any way that suits you. So if you have one lesson that feels particularly good, you can revisit it. If there are more challenging lessons, you can come back to them after you've done the ones that feel the best. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Beth. And then the shorts are there to help people engage with the material throughout the day, so that they don't need to take the time of a whole hour lesson, but can do these short bits throughout the day, and that they don't even need the recording, that they'll remember them after a little while. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd like to just add a little thing here. In my time as a physical therapist, I've been a physical therapist long enough to know that, not a lot of people like to exercise, even when you feel good. We don't want to do our exercises, even though we know we should, you know. And so people who don't feel well, who have trouble moving, my experience is that they really don't want to do their exercises unless they feel a big change. So one of the things about this class and about the Feldenkrais method is that, just as Juniper just said, you will be able to do short little snippets that keep you connected to your nervous system, so that then you can say, oh yeah, that's right, this made me feel really good. And it's still movement, you're still doing something to help yourself. So it's pretty ideal for that. And I think those recordings will really be helpful for that. And you'll, like Juniper just said, you can go back and revisit the parts that were really pleasurable to you.
Thank you, Beth. We just got a question in about swallowing. Someone writes, they have speech and swallowing issues as part of their multiple sclerosis symptoms. Will this course be helpful for them?
That's something that I was thinking about when I was planning this lesson, because I know that many people do have those issues. And I think it will, because the idea that you're moving slowly, you're utilizing your whole body, sometimes you don't realize that swallowing can be involved in how you're moving your head and neck, or your breath, and how your weight is on your feet, because it's all connected, So like I said, it's something I was particularly thinking about, and I think the lessons will speak to that. It's not a swallowing class or a speech class, but when you learn how to move slowly and comfortably and breathe while you do it and have it just be part of your everyday movement and not just a particular exercise for that. Because as I said, no function that we do involves only one muscle or one part of us. And that's what we're going to do, form these connections and relationships.
Beth, since you have such a long relationship with multiple sclerosis and people who are living with it, can you speak a little bit about what are some of the other common symptoms that people have and how this course might benefit them?
I'm sorry, can you just ask that again?
Yeah, no problem. I was just wondering, like, maybe some of our listeners have other symptoms that are common to multiple sclerosis, and you could speak about those so that they may hear something about themselves in your answer.
As far as other symptoms, like I said, most people come to me for walking, but then we find out there's some basic coordination issues. And it can be in their hands, it can be in their fingers, it can be in the way they hold their head. So coordination is a problem, and we will, because coordination is a function of how we move and how we balancing one side of our joints and the other. Balance is definitely one. A lot of people have eye issues. That's a big one too. And we will be addressing that and how the eyes have to do with the rest of the body, and how if you do have trouble with your eyes, you can move the rest of your body that could help that overall awareness. So some of the big ones are the eyes, coordination, balance. MS can affect any part, anything that's part of the central nervous system. There's heat, increased heat. Fatigue is a very big one. And just by being aware, what happens with MS is that, and I hope I'm answering your question, what happens with MS is sometimes from day to day, you don't know what you'll be able to do. Now, that's eased a little bit with these medications, but not completely. Depending on the kind of MS you have, you can do something one day and the next day not be able to do it. And that can be very stressful. And we know that stress increases fatigue and heat. And so if you then can sit back and say, okay, this is what I can do today. I can feel my body. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel my breath. I can feel how my head is in space. It can really decrease some of those symptoms. And I mean, really, I can't overemphasize the stress of not knowing what you can do from day to day, or even if it's not just day to day, that maybe you're going downhill and you don't know what is going to happen. So by using these approaches, these techniques, it can decrease that a great deal. That what can I do today? Not what can't I do today? What can I do? There's something that you can do, and I do have stories about that, but I've worked with it, I've seen it, so it really is helpful.
Beth, what about the emotional impact that living with multiple sclerosis has on people? Can you speak about how this course and how the Feldenkrais method will be able to help them?
Yes, again, it's like when you get an illness, especially something like MS, we don't want our body to belong to us. We don't like our body anymore. Like, why is this happening? And if you can get a handle on it, okay, I can do this today. And if I do this, then it's going to help me to stand. It's going to help my balance. If I can feel where I am on my feet, it's going to help my balance. If I can't feel where I am on my feet, if I can feel how my pelvis is over my feet, how my breath affects that. So it's very, like I said, the emotional part but there is very big. But again, it's that stress. And we know that stress increases our fight or flight system. and it makes it so we just get paralyzed and we can't really do what we want to do and live our lives. It helps us to have options for how to do what we want to do and keep moving, keep doing, living our life the way we want to, and dealing with those ups and downs. That's so emotional, dealing with the ups and downs. Another one that I didn't touch on was pain. Now, pain is not really it. People with MS sometimes have pain. They might have stiffness, spasticity, and sometimes that will cause pain. But it's more painful if you have stiffness and spasticity, if you work really hard to get out of it. But if you can soften and be gentle with it and move very easily, move very in a comfortable way, a lot of the pain comes from the stress of not knowing what you can do and that fight or flight system. And this method definitely calms what we call the sympathetic nervous system, really calms it down. So then we can learn. It's hard to learn when you're in fight or flight and when you're emotional, when you don't feel well, when you're in pain. So we calm that down and then we proceed with some learning.
That's great, Beth. We have another question on YouTube. How do you deal with a person who complains of a serious headache?
How do you deal with it? So is the question what to do about the headache, or how do you deal with it? Oh, I think it's easier for me to talk about somebody with a headache than how you're going to deal with it. Again, calming that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, the breathing that you'll learn from doing this, gentle movement. And again, I don't know what's causing their headache, because I don't think traditionally that that's a big symptom of MS. It could be one that I haven't experienced. Somebody who comes to me with trouble walking, they may have headaches, but maybe that's not what they're coming to me for. I wouldn't know. But however, whatever they come for, they feel better when they leave. So if they have headaches, I think, again, taking the attention away from it and using your nervous system to move. And another thing about it, and I'm not sure this speaks directly to headaches, but to pain in general, we learn how to use our skeleton. Our muscles aren't really wanting to do their job. So if we keep trying to work them harder, that'll cause pain. And what happens is, if we can't use a muscle, we try to pull in other muscles to help. So a lot of people who can't stand will use their jaw, will use their neck muscles. If you can't do something, you use your neck muscles to do it, and that will give you a headache. So if you learn how to use your skeleton to learn we're meant to be standing on our feet, not using our muscles. Our muscles need to move us. So whatever strength we have in our muscles, we need to use them to move us, not to hold us. And that will get rid of pain, and that'll really help a headache too, I think.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, we're wrapping up right now, and there's no questions left. I want to speak a little bit about the Q&As that are part of the series, and maybe, Beth, you can add something about how excited you are about them, which is that we are offering 2 Q&A sessions for the participants in the series, in which you'll have an opportunity to join us live if you're available for that session. You can come live and ask your question directly to Beth. And if you're not available, you can also send a question in advance so that I can read your question to Beth. And then you can also post into the program that's in your Feldenkrais Access library, so that you can ask a question to Beth that way in text, and then Beth can respond to you there, so that this provides an opportunity for people to engage in a kind of community where they can hear each other, they can hear you, Beth, and then they can also see your questions back and forth on the platform, which I think is really helpful for people who are facing challenges. Can you say more about what you
I would
anticipate?
like to. I really personally love questions and answers. I want to know what your questions are. I can talk, but if that's not what you want to know, it's not helpful. And I'm here to help you learn, to serve you. And I want to know your questions, please. And feel free to contact Feldenkrais Access. They'll send me any questions, and I want to answer your questions. So I'm very excited about the Q&As in this. And yes, I'm looking forward to it. And that's going to really help us make this class better. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. But I want you to be involved in it. Like I said, I can talk forever, but it's more important that you speak.
Great, wonderful. Well, for anyone who's watching now or watching the recording later, please feel free to send a question into Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Also, feel free to contact Beth through the Feldenkrais Access email, communications@feldenkraisaccess.com. And as you heard, Beth is really looking forward to hearing from you. And that's it. Do you want to close us out, Beth, and remind people about the free class?
Yeah, I want to tell you that. But I want to tell you that, as you can see, I think this is my passion, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm so glad that you're interested in this. And so you can come to the first class, and it's free. And then you can go from there. But I hope you will participate in this, because I'm really excited about it.